The talk today is, how does one deal with the loss of a loved one? It's because the moment somebody you love leaves this life, what happens to you? You feel the pain. You miss them. You miss their energy. So how does one tell somebody who is grieving how to carry on with life? Because what happens is when you lose someone that you're really close to, your whole psyche changes. You will ask questions like, really, what is life all about? What does it mean? You'll start to rethink your life. You'll start to think about new things, especially when somebody is very close to you, a spouse, a mother, a brother, a sister, or just a great friend. Friendships too. Children are the hardest. So how do we approach this sadness and this grief? Because grieve you will. I can promise you that, all right? Everybody who loses a loved one will grieve. And that is the first thing we have to understand. And the yoga science teaches us this in Book 2 of Sri Patanjali, Sutra 1. He tells us very clearly, accepting pain for purification. Accepting pain. Now, this is not easy to do if you don't have a spiritual background. When my husband passed away, I remember thinking, how do people do this pain without the knowledge? How do they get through it? Because it was so dark. It becomes dark. Your world becomes dark. Your mind becomes like cotton wool. Everything becomes surreal. The person I'd known and lived with for 34 years who could just think for me was gone, like a puff of smoke. 6 weeks, gone. So I thought, oh, I'd managed really well after he died. I managed really well physically and I think emotionally because of yoga therapy. But the pain was there and the pain will be there. And this is where the yoga science helped me a lot. First thing, when you're dealing with people with a loss of a who has lost a loved one, the first thing you do is just sit with them. Don't try to tell them how to think or how to feel, because you can't know unless you're in their body. So many people will come up to you and say, if you've lost a loved one, and say, oh, I'm so sorry, and they mean it, and it's really good, and they're really sorry, and it's important because people need to hear that. But try not to say too much more than that. Try to say, if you need me, call me. Is there anything I can help you on a physical level? Can I bring you some food? For example, when somebody walks into my office and they've lost a loved one, normally they walk in and they look wretched. They've got dark circles up to here, the face, the skin is gray, and the first thing you can feel in the energy field is this darkness and this lack of hope, and they don't want to live. They don't really say that till I prompt them, but you can see they've given up. They've given up on life. And so what's the first thing to help them through and out of this? I use the Bhagavad Gita. I tell them, what have you lost? What have you lost? Oh, I've lost my husband, I've lost my wife, I've lost my child. Was it yours in the first place? Was it yours in the first place? Well, it's my child, my husband. Yeah. But how did you get to this earth? I ask them. Who are you? And they answer, well, I'm soul, for those who believe in a soul. For those who don't believe in a soul, I'll tell you that's another story. That's a different way you approach it. For those who believe in the soul, it's much easier to work with those. So we'll start with that one first. Oh, I have a soul. Okay. Does soul die? Never. So soul is not born and it's never dies. Would you agree with that? Yes. So your partner is not dead. And they stare at me. I said, your partner is not dead. Your partner's just moved to a different dimension. The soul's moved on, it's energy. And in the Bhagavad Gita, and I take it out and I show it to them, look, just as a man or woman casts off a worn out jacket or clothes, when it's old you throw it away. So the soul that is embodied When the body is no longer useful for their journey, they drop it. But don't worry, they'll get many more clothes and many more bodies, just not in this life. So you see, death is just an extension of life. So don't over-grieve. Yes, of course you're going to go through the pain because you're going to miss them. But be conscious of the fact, the true fact, is the more that you grieve, you stop their growth. So in yoga therapy, we make it clear, because what is the premise that yoga lives on or is taught on? That while we're alive, we connect with our higher self, correct? Would you agree? All of us? While we're alive, the whole yoga science is to connect with the higher self, what we call God or Jesus or whatever you want to call it. But this consciousness, this universal consciousness of grace, of joy. So this consciousness that we're talking about is the matter of energy and atoms. So our atoms in our body, our energy, our light, when we lose the body, is actually greater than when it's in the body. Because when it's in the body, it's confined to a space. But once you leave this space, you can join with many entities and many bodies. Some of us may be even twin souls. You know, we don't even know. Sometimes too, because you think of space, right? You can, if I put this book in between, I've just divided space, but they're really one. You see, so when you lose the container, you can go anywhere. This is just science. Okay, this is just science. I'm not a scientist, but it's common sense, right? If I break this glass, the water will go everywhere. What's left? Space. So the glass occupies a space. So same with the body. So the first thing you do with yoga therapy, you try to explain. So if they don't understand soul, consciousness, energy. Now most people understand consciousness and energy. So the people who say we become nothing, for example, so they're just dead, they're just gone forever. And then I go, no, you're wrong. What do you mean, Nalanie? They're still in your heart. They are still in your heart. You are suffering because they're in your mind and in your heart. So do you want to live the rest of your life being miserable, or do you choose that you want to give hope to the world and carry on? So they look at me and say, of course I want to give hope to the world and carry on. You see, it's really important. The other yogic practice that is really important is to give the people who've lost somebody a reason to be, a reason to live. And this is what all the teachers tell us: serve, love, give, right? Because I know when my husband passed, what kept me going, I cried every night for nearly 6 months, but what kept me going was my work. I loved it. And while I was working with people, I totally forgot my sorrow. And I remember I gave a talk on death and dying a month after, talked about his whole death. And everybody was crying in the room except me. Do things to honor the person who's passed. You give them something, right? Something to work for. I said, whatever you do, offer it to that person. So I did a lot of charity in that space of time. There were people who were in trouble and, you know, everything. I just started giving, and I said, this is in honor of my husband. This is and they would say, thank you, thank you. And I said, don't thank me. He's lost his life, so I can give this to you, because I realized, you know, he left everything behind. There was not one thing he could take with him. And I saw it, and I gave all his things away. And people were telling me, why are you giving everything away? I said, because let somebody enjoy it. They're beautiful things. And all his watches, I gave to my son right away. Don't you want to keep it for a rainy day? No! I want my son to enjoy it. In fact, my jewelry, I told my daughters, just take it. She wasn't fond of jewelry. So anyway, so what do you do? But what I'm telling you here is, when you have something to serve or something to do with your life, then the grieving becomes easier. Service helps you. But when you're trapped in your mind, and when you feel the victim, and this is the same thing when you lose a partner, I mean, when you have a breakup, a love breakup, right? It really hurts. It's heartbreak. You literally break. It really hurts. And my sister Kanto, she's here today. I remember her husband died 2 2 months after my husband passed, also from cancer. And she called me one day and she said to me, "Sis, I think I'm having a heart attack. I feel awful. I can't bear it. It's so painful." And I said to her, "Please do not go to the doctor. They'll just give you more medication, which won't help. You literally have a heartbreak." The heart chakra, we all study in yoga science, the heart chakra. And where does it affect you? This area, your arms, your hands. That's why when you're grieving, you kind of want to just do this, right? You want to hide away. And this is what the yoga practices gave me. I felt like this, but I did this. That's what saves you. So instead of saying, "I want to hide away," I did that for 1 month. I did. Right. That I gave to myself. I hid away and I just loved being like this on my own because I knew I would have to go through the pain. I just didn't believe anybody else deserved my pain. I knew it was normal. It's just time. That's another thing you have to remember. Time heals. Okay? Time heals. And I kept on telling myself, because of the yogic science, again, I'm so grateful for it. In 2 months, I'll feel better. In 6 months, I'll feel better. In 1 year, I'll feel better. 1 year for me was the most painful time. So again, when you have that person in front of you who is suffering and they need your advice, tell them, don't lie to them. Yes, it's going to be painful, but every day will be a little better. The first 6 weeks will be the worst. And how did I learn that? Because I had been counseling at that time when my husband passed for over 15 years. And everybody that I counseled that lost a partner or very close friend or a mother or a sister that they were very close to or a child would tell me that the first 6 weeks were agony. Okay? So 6 weeks is a very dark period. So, of course, when my husband died, I was prepared for the 6 weeks. And it was horrendous, the first 6 weeks. The first week actually is not too bad because your mind is full of cotton wool. You're just getting all funeral, organizing things, looking after the family, visitors come, so many people there, and you're almost wishing, can everybody just go home so I can absorb the pain? I need to get through this. But at the same time, they're needed there. And I realize why they're needed there. They distract you the first week that really, if you had to face it, maybe it'd be too powerful. You see, the world is kind. So if you know anybody who's alone and lost someone or gone through a heartbreak, try and be with them. Just call them. You do need to call them, especially people who are alone, because they can go into deep depression. If they don't have this knowledge, many of them may overdose as well. All right? So I learned this from all the people I saw. Another thing I learned, I'm really grateful to my patients. All of anybody who'd lost someone, and it really hurt, memory loss. So of course, when my husband passed away, I didn't know where I put the keys. I didn't know, leave the iron on, leave home, because I was living alone for the first time. Did I have the iron on? Did I have it off? Go back on. Thank God I remembered it. I nearly got a shock one day because my head was in the clouds, because you're in the clouds, and I nearly put my finger in the socket and I did, Nalanie, are you crazy? Wake up. But I knew it was normal, memory loss. So of course, when I knew it was normal, what happened? Normal. So I told my daughter, I told my grandchildren who had stayed with me a lot, if I do anything silly, tell me it's normal. And they did. And I said, watch me, just watch me, don't trust me too much because my memory is not so good. So why does memory loss happen? Very simple. any of you here been really stressed out in your life? Okay? When you're really stressed out, when you're really angry with somebody, can you think?
No.
You can't think straight. You forget. You forget. What was this? What was this? What was this? What was you just totally forget. You can't think straight. You have a panic attack, same thing. You can't think straight. So it's because the mind and the heart, these chakras are blocked. Memory loss. Once you get better, the months pass, the memory comes back again. It's not dementia. It is not a heart attack. And I remember my sister called me back a few days later, right? She said, thank God I didn't go to the doctor. I said, this pain will stay with you. This pain will stay with you for some time. Accept it. Accept it. It's gonna stay. Make friends with your pain. I literally made friends with my pain by watching the comedy Friends every night. Literally. Because really, at this point, when somebody loses somebody so close, it's black, okay? It's black. You question, is there a God? You do question it, because it's just black. And I've been meditating 20 years before this happened. My husband passed, but it just goes black. But because I had the knowledge, I knew that my human body and my human mind and my human, it's gross, you see, it's matter. So it takes a lot longer to absorb things. So I knew it had to go into blackness, but I also knew it was okay. So I didn't stop the meditating, although everything was black. I just sat down every morning and saw my husband's face and send him light. This is the other thing. Send them light, because I remember the story of my guru. Don't stop their progress. And me sobbing was stopping his progress. And I used to tell myself, Nalanie, don't be so selfish. So again, Sri Patanjali, the yogic science works again. You can have selfish thoughts or selfless thoughts. When they're selfish, what happens? They cause you pain. When they're selfless, there's no pain in it. So by being selfless, by not being the victim, I was helping myself. Do you see how incredible this science is? So I thought, by thinking about myself, poor me, I lost my husband 34 years, never lived alone, living alone, never done accounts, this is the story that went on my head. And I went, oh, keep quiet. I'm stronger than you. Remember, what is yoga about? What is it about? Connecting with your higher self. So Nalanie is no good at the moment, so my higher self is. So watching, witnessing the mind, for me, was the best gift in the world. I was so grateful. And and after that, whenever I consulted anybody, and I saw many the first year that lost someone, I could give them this energy. I could pass them this spiritual knowledge, and they'd come into my office with the face like dark and gray and miserable. And I could say, look at me, I lost my husband. Not only have I started my life again, not only am I happy, I still love him. Is there a day I don't think about him? Never. And Les knows, I talk about him every day, even after 12 years this year? Every day his name will pop up. And I've got a wonderful partner who understands. He said, you would be really odd, he tells me, if you didn't think about him. So do you see, understanding the physical necessity and the spiritual strength? When you have the spiritual strength, you can deal with the physical. And you can understand it. I watch myself as if I'm watching somebody else. And that way, I could understand people more. It was my education into real heartbreak. Prior to that, I'd lost my father, I'd lost my guru, I'd lost lots of people. But they were friends. When I used to teach dancing, a lot of my very good friends at that time died of AIDS because, they were my friends and they suffered a lot. So I could help them even then. But losing a partner that you live with, or a mother that you live with, or somebody you lived with for a long period of time, and they become part of you, a child as well, is really hard. It's different. And also old age is much easier to deal with because you say they lived a long time. But when it's young, when they have so much to live for, it is very hard for the person grieving. And the only thing I can tell them is, if you love them, let them go. Let them go. And this is where the selfless is really important, and it is not easy. It is not easy. That's why I think it is very important. And I tell people, it is really important while you are alive to practice being selfless all the time. Practice. It's not only about me, it's about us. We've talked about this in yoga. Another concept, we all come from one. It's about us. If it's about us, you can heal. Why? Because you get the strength of so many people. That's why prayers work. So many times when somebody's lost a loved one and they say, can you pray for me? And we all pray, we send prayers out. They literally call me back and say they really feel it. They feel that support. Why? Because prayers, over there we have, prayers are invisible, but make it the impossible things possible. So prayers are powerful thoughts. So when you pray for someone, for example, and you tell the person that you are working with, I pray that you are strong and healthy. They feel your strength. That is energy. Energy. As you think, all of you know, you become. So as you speak, you also pass that power on to the person, and they receive it. So when you're counseling anybody using yoga as a therapy, you must be very well grounded in yourself, all right? And this is why I love the sutras, because if you really memorize them and study them, they will give you everything you need to go through the most difficult times in your life. And of course, I have had a chance to be with yogis who've lost people who are very close. And I have seen that with the knowledge, how they've coped with their pain. And I have been with people who've had no knowledge, and I have seen how they've struggled with their pain. And it is a struggle, and it is hell. I remember this lady, all the names are fictitious, the stories are real. This woman walked into my office, and again, looking like she was going to die. And so I asked her, and she said, my husband has been gone now for 3 months, and why can't I just die? Why can't I just die? I'm not eating. Why can't I just die? And I said, I wish it was so easy to die, but when you want to, it's not so easy. But anyway, you don't want to do that because you would really hurt him. She looked at me like this. What do you mean? Obviously, he left this world because he felt you had something to do, something more to do. Otherwise, he would not have left you. Oh, but I am so angry that he left me. I said, do you think he wanted to go? And she goes, no, he loved me. What did he say to you at the end? He told me he wanted to go. What did you say to him at the end? Please don't go. I wouldn't accept that he was dying. And then she started crying. I couldn't accept he was dying. I didn't believe it. I thought a miracle would happen. The doctor said, maybe this, maybe that. But he didn't make it. So I was angry with the man I loved at the last moments. I wish I wasn't. And she cried and she cried and she had so much guilt. And she said, he's looked after me. I was an orphan. He married me straight after I got out of the orphanage, and he's looked after me for 30 odd years, and he's been the most incredible husband. I never have to worry about anything. He's got a great business in London, in Gibraltar, and everywhere, and he's always given me everything I want. I travel with him, but I've never worked. He's looked after me like I'm his baby, and now there is nothing. And I said to her, yeah, so I think we need to thank him. I think we need to thank him. You didn't thank him, right? She said, no, I didn't thank him. I didn't thank him. And she started crying. So I, breathing, made her breathe in and out. I laid her down and I said, have you ever had a deep relaxation? Again, creative realization, visualization, deep relaxation. See, I tell you, they're amazing, all right? So I lay her down and I always pray before I start. I said, divine energy, consciousness, God, Guru, whoever you are, whatever you are, please help this soul. They're really, really suffering. It's not my hands, your hands. Please make it work. And they always listen. They're really good, those friends I have all over the place. They're really good. I have to be really truthful. They're really good. Anyway, so I put her down and I put her into deep relaxation. And I cover her in light like we always do for our meditations, and I ask her to see the light within her heart. Then I asked her to see her husband there, and the tears started flowing. So I held her hand while I was sitting on the floor with her, and I said, it's okay, you are safe. No harm is going to come to you. It's okay to feel the pain. It's okay. Accept the pain. It's okay. You are safe. You are nothing's going to happen to you. So she visualized her husband. I said, do you see him? She said, I see him in the hospital bed. I see him. I see his eyes. I see him a few hours before he died. Good. Now tell him what you want to tell him. What do you want to tell him? So she went, I want to thank him. I want to tell him I'm really, really sorry that I was angry with him at the last moment. I should have talked to him, but I didn't believe he was going to die. I said, don't talk to me, talk to him. You see him. I'm not seeing him. You are seeing him. So tell him what you want. So she did, and it went on for 20 minutes, all the things she needed to tell him. So then I asked her to relax, and then I asked her to watch him leave. Happily. Tell him to be free from that horrible cancer. I said his body was really bad. She said, oh, his body was so sick, he couldn't eat, he was so thin. I said, let him go. Do you want to see him like that all the time in your heart? How do you want to remember him? Handsome and strong. So now send him off handsome and strong. So she did. She sent him off handsome and strong. Then she opened her eyes and she sat down. And she said, I'm better. She said, for the first time in 3 months, my heart is not hurting. I said, great. This is a breather. And she, what do I do? How do I help myself? I said, you have children? Next stop. Look after them. Where are your children? They're in England looking after my husband's business. What kind of business? Publishing, music, etc. He was doing everything. I said, are you interested in his business? I don't know anything about business. I said, go learn. He's left you a great empire. Go learn. Would you like to learn? I'd love to learn. So, okay, step number 1, homework. I want you to call your daughter today in UK and start to find out how you can help in the business. 2, I said, I need you to buy some books on death and dying. You better study quick. I said, I want you to make friends with death. It is because you fear death. When you fear death, you cannot accept anybody dying. I want you to make friends with death. What books? Oh, there are plenty. So I gave her a whole lot. Embraced by the Light, Betty Eady, Life After Life by Dr. Raymond Moody. What else did I give her? Dying to Be Me, Anita Moorjani. Tibetan Book of Living and Dying, Bhagavad Gita. I said, oh my God, you got a lot of work ahead of you. And I said, come to every single talk. In those days, I used to talk Tuesday and Wednesday in Gibraltar. And she did. And she did. And she became a Buddhist, by the way. After 3 months, she stayed in Gibraltar. She came, I was seeing her twice a week at that time. And within 3 months, she decided she loved the Tibetan Book of Living and Dying. So when she went to England, she went to one of the Buddhist centers and she became a Buddhist. Same thing, it's wonderful, right? And she started to work in the business. The pain was still there. Of course it's still there. But she could live again. And she accepted the pain. And every time she spoke to me on the phone from England, she would say to me, every day better. Every day better. I said, there will be bad days. And this is what you should all know. There will be bad days. And what are those the worst days? Birthdays. Anniversaries. Your kids' birthdays. Your siblings' birthdays. Christmas. Holiday time. Those. Watch out for those. 2 days before those days come, call a friend. Call somebody. If you can get away. Or call your children. Have a family gathering. Do a puja together, which is what we did the first year. We all did every special occasion. I called my children. And because they were grieving too. It wasn't just me. And it would have been really selfish for me not to think about them. So I said, come on, let's do a puja for Dad. Let's do a prayer for Dad. So we all were there together. And I knew, as I started healing, they started healing. So for people who are grieving, know that you will get better. Please, you will get better. Today is painful. Today is painful. Tomorrow will be painful. Maybe 6 weeks will be painful. But every day brings new hope. And how do you get through this? Reminding yourself, I too will go. I too will lose my body one day. How do I want to look at death? Have I not learned? Sometimes people don't learn. This is why the spiritual learning is so important. This is why I keep telling you week after week after week, don't waste time. Connect with yourself. Connect and love and love. If you have people in your life that you're angry with, try and make peace. You don't have to be with them. You just need to make peace with them for your own sake. The guilt, next week I'll like to speak a bit more about guilt because it's a long one. That is the long one. This is one story about one woman who felt guilt because she was angry. But she was angry only because she really believed her husband wouldn't leave her. You see, we don't know. Again, the yogic teaching. Non-attachment. Is anything yours? Anything yours in this room? Anything yours?
No.
Well, you have them. You can enjoy them. I can enjoy my necklace. I can enjoy these clothes, but they don't really belong to me long term. They're all on love, but I can enjoy it. But the secret is, don't get attached to any of it. Play. Play. Play with whatever you get. Also, gratitude for whatever you have. And if you have a partner in your life or somebody you're very close to, your siblings, and there is problems, some siblings really have huge problems, just try to make peace. Like I said, you don't have to be in their energy field. You don't have to be with them all the time. Just make peace in your heart. You may not like them, but love them. You got it? You love them because they're soul. I'll tell you one thing, I have met many families that have told me, oh, I don't get along with my sibling. Sibling dies, crying their eyes out. I thought you didn't get along with your sibling. My brother, my sister. Wow. So be careful, because you see, deep inside all of us, we recognize we're connected. We do recognize this. And when a sibling is lost, the physical body is lost, the mind is lost, that negative energy is lost. But you growing up is not lost. There is connection of the soul. So make peace. You don't have to like them, just make peace. This is why, again, always speak nice words. Try not to be angry so much. When I used to lose my temper with my husband, and When we didn't agree on things, we used to argue. We used to have fantastic arguments. And then as I practiced not getting angry so much, as I was working through this process of being the real me and not the mind me, I remember every time I would start to get angry, one of the things I thought was, if he should die tomorrow, how would I feel? How would I feel? I shut up. I just shut up. It helped me. That practice helped me so much. And he died very quickly within 7 weeks of being diagnosed. And all I'm saying to people, I was so grateful that I told him I loved him every single day of my life, even though he didn't tell me till the last 6 weeks, every single day of my life. And he told me, I wish I told you every single day of your life. And I said, don't now. I got used to you not telling me. I have to tell you because this is my nature, But he did. Every single day till he died, he told me that. So he made up for all the years he didn't. But he did love me. I did know that. That's another thing about the yoga science. You accept so much more that you would not accept in a human being when you practice on yourself. Why? Because you learn what are your own emotions, what you feel, and basically I tell you, we're all the same. When I see people in my counseling room, everybody suffers because there is a lack of understanding or love. Really? All they're saying is, please love me more. And the people they hate, the sibling or whatever, it's really saying, why can't you be kinder to me? Really, it's that. It's why couldn't you love me? That's why, I always say hate and love are so connected. You know how? When you don't hate somebody, you think about them all the time. When you love somebody, you think about them all the time. So the secret is to put love into that equation. Put love into your thought all the time. Superimpose the negative with the positive. And so this is using yoga as a therapy for a loss of a loved one, but there's so much more to cover in this subject, because what happens when people lose a child, also very tough, very tough. It does take longer. In my knowledge, it takes longer to forgive the death of a child. But in the cases where the forgiveness of the loss of the child is worked together with, combined with service, the healing becomes quick. For example, I've worked with many people who have lost special needs children very young. When they've lost their child and they start to join organizations to help others who have special needs children, their life is renewed. There's a meaning in that child's life, and they do everything in the service of that child. So actually, I tell them when they come to me, when they have those bad days, and they come to me and I said, your child decided to take on that body so that you could learn to be who you are today. Look how much that child loved you, because that child knew their mother was going to be special. But in order for you to do your work that you were meant to help so many people with, they had to come to your life. Otherwise you would not be doing that work. So things happen to us to wake us up to our spirit. And if you look at life and death, there's really no death. Really, we never die. It's just energy. And that's really exciting when you know that. It is really exciting, because if you live really well, then you will die really well. You'll be ready. So please, the message today is, the real yoga therapy is, get in touch with the spirit every day. You can't say, I'm going to do it a week before, or I'm going to do it later. There is no later. We don't know what tomorrow will bring. We don't know when we are going to go. None of us know. So make hay while the sun shines.